All right, hello, Facebook and YouTube world. Today's our very first live video. We're going to be broadcasting for now on both Facebook and YouTube with every one of our lives. And we're going to try to do this every week, at least once a week. So my name's Jonathan Sellers. I'm the CEO of Spark Outbound, and joining me today is Whitney Presley. She's our digital outreach coordinator.
Yes.
And so today we're going to talk about something, it's near and dear to what we do for a lot of our clients. It's something that you may have heard about a lot if you're in the digital marketing space or if you're a small business owner, but we're going to be talking about email personalization.
Mm-hmm.
So Whitney here runs a lot of our campaigns that where we do email outreach. So we're reaching out for our clients via email to try to start up conversations, and so within that she's creating a lot of the content that goes into the campaigns, and so she's doing a lot of personalizing these emails. And so when we talk to people, whether it be like prospects or our clients are asking us how our campaign's set up or how are we using personalization to make their campaigns more effective, we get a lot of conflicting thoughts on what exactly does personalization mean, or how can we use it, what are some ways we could use it better. So today we wanted to dig into that a little more, and so I just wanted to start off by just going right from the beginning with just, what really, why is personalization so important for email outreach or for email marketing in general?
So I think the biggest reason that personalizing your outreach emails is because of what I think of as empathy or psychology. So imagine yourself receiving.
And let's pause for a minute.
Yes.
So you have a master's in psychology?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where I come from.
Okay. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. So from that perspective, I try to think about when one of our prospects receives one of our emails, from their perspective, what does it look like? When they see one of our emails and it pops up in their inbox, are they immediately, like, oh, this is just another spam message, and they disregard it. So, first of all, I think personalizing the subject line, of course, it's the first thing that they see. So personalizing the subject line is where I would start. But again, back to the reason why that it's so crucial is because, again, from their perspective, how is this email being perceived? So the goal is to send relevant messaging to the right people.
Right. So let me stop you on that one because so you mentioned two things. So the messaging and the targeting lining up, but then you mentioned the starting point could be personalizing the subject line. So what does that exactly mean? Like, what are some examples of how you would do that?
So personalizing the subject line, you can use merge tags, or what we call merge tags. So essentially it's a way to insert or personalize literally a piece of information within the subject line or within the body of the email. So for the subject line, it might just be the first name of the person. So
Okay.
Quick question, Jonathan.
Okay.
So that from their perspective, they're not getting just a mass email. Using someone's first name generally will give them, initially a feeling that
It's for
that
them.
email was written for them.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and so let's even pause right there. So using merge tags would be most relevant when you have a list that you're sending to. So you have a list of maybe 10 or 100 or 1,000 people. You have in a spreadsheet a column of their first names, their last names, their company names, job titles, any type of information that you would have like that. You can use a merge tag to then automatically insert that in. So the alternative would be if you're sending somebody one email, you would personalize it by potentially using their first name or their company name, question about your company name. So question about Spark Outbound, for instance, in the subject line. So you could do it manually or in an automated sense.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I know you had been researching some strategies or like ways that you could personalize outside of that. So that's kind of like the basic way that most people would use your first name or your company name or your title, things like that. Which we were looking into some maybe more advanced or just more creative ways to personalize.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So what are some of those that you think would be maybe some of the more cooler, more effective ways to do that?
So as far as some of the tools that we can use to help you personalize your message, one way is, I think the simplest way would just be, in LinkedIn to refine by your buyer persona. So, that's the very basic way of just using filters, adding filters to the database to get, to focus down your search. So there's no point in sending a message to 1,000 random people. You're trying to target relevant people. So
the people you can help.
The people you can help. Your product or service, solve some kind of problem for them.
Right.
So that's who we're looking for. I think that one way is that you can use platforms that use intent or are based in intent data.
Right.
So intent data, these are like online buyer signals that tell us that someone is actively interested in buying a product or service.
Like, what do you mean? Like Instagram or Twitter, or just social media? Or?
Yeah. So social media, different software you can use for tracking data on websites. So for example, if we went to our website, there are tools you can use to basically track everyone that visits your website. Then you can use that information to flesh out more contact details.
So let's pause on that one because that's more advanced. So that's done by using typically tracking IP addresses, and then they know that whatever IBM, that's IBM's IP address, so you know that this person is from IBM, and then taking other steps, then they're connecting that to a person. So that is super advanced, super cool because for instance, they've been to your website. Just a side note on that is that specifically is cool to do in the U.S., but with GDPR, you could not do something like that. So if you're targeting European citizens, that would be basically against terms of GDPR.
Yeah, of course, you have to be really cautious and aware of sending or contacting anyone in another country outside of the U.S. because we have very different privacy laws.
And just perceptions in general.
In general, yeah. Cultural, there's a whole cultural differences and, in general. So anyway, the intent data platforms. So one of these platforms is Lead Sift. Okay. So for example, so this is basically, again, it's they're tools to extract intent buyer signals. So this is, again, maybe from the website scraper, or maybe you could also target people who are searching for, whose search terms in Google, for example, are related to your business or whatever you're selling.
Yeah, so let's talk about more like the lead sift type of thing. So you mentioned lead sift. So we mentioned you lead sift because we just had a discussion with them not too long ago, and they explained how their platform works, which is super interesting. And so what they do there is they're tracking these buyer signals all across the web. So social media, through widgets and apps, and on other websites and everything. And so like when people are sharing content or people are following competitor profiles, or they're using hashtags, like a good example for that would be like an event. Like if you want to track people that are going to an event, then you would want to probably know about the people who are using the hashtag, because it's likely they're going to go to that event. So that maybe is a good segue into discussing specifically. So say that's your goal. So you know that a great target for your company would be someone who's attending this big, national event, and we're going to assume in a few months after things settle down and events start happening again. But you know that this event happening in the fall is going to be full of your prime targets. And so what happens after you mentioned this one, you mentioned like using a tool to scrape the data. So there's hacker type tools, but there's one called Phantom Buster where you could potentially scrape all the posts that use a certain hashtag, and so now you have this list. This is a spreadsheet, and it will have the person's Instagram, for instance, Instagram profile. It'll have the link to their post. It'll have the link to their profile, and so now you have all this data. So what do you do once you get that data and you now have email addresses for those people? What are kind of the steps that you take to make sure when you start to run an outbound campaign like we do, so a sales outreach, email outreach campaign, what are the steps to get that, to make sure it's the most effective use of your time?
Yeah, sure. So once you've used these kind of tactics to personalize your message, personalize your subject line, the whole thing, you want to personalize also your list. So again, I just want to reiterate that one of the biggest reasons, or the reasons that personalization is so crucial, is because that you need to target. It's best practice to target or to speak to exactly who is interested in your product or service. So anyway, so after you've used some of these tools to build your relevant lists and your relevant message, then you're ready to organize your data and then build a campaign and launch. So organizing data, you just want to, first of all, you can collate all of these. So just organize the list by groups. You can use something that we'll mention later, but segmenting out into different audiences is a way to collate your data. Also, you want to make sure to clean your data. So go through and it seems like a tedious thing, but in the end, it really makes your campaign, could make or break your campaign, because you could have bad data. You could have within your list, maybe like extra characters or something, anything that's just out of place.
And so on that cleaning the data. So let's say, I think, okay, so I see your next point. So let's go ahead and you talk about your next point, and then we'll talk about combining why those two things are so important.
Okay. So yeah, just making sure that you're cleaning out anything that is not a good match for that target audience. You might have, several target audiences, but for each one, you need to make sure everything is relevant. And then verify.
Yes,
there you go. Okay.
That's where I was going. I was going for the verification.
Okay. So, and then a really, really important tool or step in before launching is verifying your information. So, or verifying your data. So, basically, this is to verify the email addresses of the people, of your prospects, the contacts. this is so important, and it has so many reasons that it's important.
This is the make or break, I think.
Yeah.
So the cleaning and all that to prep is very important for, like you're saying, having the right message to the right person. But even with that, if you don't verify your email addresses, and so this is going to require some type of tool, like there's essentially no really way to do it manually, that will not put you at risk, because what this process really means is a tool will send or ping an email address, ping a server or a domain, and what they're trying to say is, can you let me know if this is a real email address and it's valid? Is this person still working here? Will this email go to the inbox of this person? And so if you do not do that, you're very likely 20 to 40%, I would say minimum, of your list is probably not accurate. Unless you're getting from like a premium database solution that includes verification in their list. Almost any other way that you're going to get a list of emails that doesn't include verification, you're going to be minimum 20 to 40% of that list is going to be inaccurate. So the people are not going to be working there anymore. Some tools find the data different ways. They're going to have made up like what they think the email address is, but they're wrong. So it could be as high as 70% of your list is wrong. Like we see that all the time. Like we'll do a very specific list, and then we run it through a verification tool, and it'll come back and it'll be like, here's 28% of verified email addresses.
Yeah. But again, there's no point in sending to bad email addresses.
Yeah, because it's just going to bounce.
Yeah.
It's going to bounce.
Which is going to affect your deliverability.
Exactly. And that's at the end of the day. So when you're doing outbound messaging, your deliverability is your first priority. Because if you're not showing up in the inbox, no one will ever respond to you. If you're sending to emails that bounce, those emails are not going to respond because they don't even exist. They're not even people. And so if you're showing up in the spam folder, it's very unlikely that they'll also see those messages. And so the more bounces you get, and the more people who mark you as spam because you're not personalizing your message, the more you will go to the spam folder. So that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother video.
Yeah.
But so that's and so then say we verify, and we have our list of these are verified emails. We have our content, we have our personalization in there where we're definitely speaking to this person about a message that resonates to them. And are there any other steps?
I'd say, again, just making sure to segment out different groups. Because
like job titles, like if you have marketing directors or CEOs.
Yeah, of course, because your message to the more you segment out your target audiences, the more targeted or more focused that your message can be to them. Because if you're emailing everyone in one batch or with one message, it's just going to be a super generic, not relevant message.
Right, it's going to be relevant to some of them, but a large percentage maybe not.
Right, so I would say segmenting, and then just again in whatever platform that you're using to send the emails, using things like merge tags, subject line. In the body, you can use things like our platform has a merge tag for like the current day or today.
Right.
So sometimes we say like happy whatever day it is.
Wednesday.
Just as a nice greeting to, again, going back to the empathy, when you receive an email, you want it to be relevant to you.
From a person who wants to talk to you.
To talk to you, not to sell you something, but, to engage. And I think that's the whole point in our strategy, is because, in the way that we do things, is because we're not trying to, sell anything. We spark conversations that lead to, long-term, meaningful relationships with people who are interested in your business. So
that's the goal. Awesome. Well, so because this is our first live, we don't know if essentially, we assume there's probably not that many people out there watching this live, but we know this will still be out there, and we're going to turn this content into other pieces of content in the future. So if you are seeing this, leave a comment, ask a question. We'll be happy to answer it. We'll be going live roughly once a week, so that's the plan right now. Next week, we're going to talk about something a little different, because in addition to the email outreach side of things, we also do digital advertising for a lot of our other clients. And so next week, we're going to talk about Facebook lead form ads. So we have a lot of clients who are having success directly generating leads from Facebook ads at a very cost-effective rate, and so we're going to dig into that next week. In 2 weeks, Whitney will probably be back, and we're going to be digging into another email outreach topic, and we hope to hear from you soon. If you want to hear about something specific related to digital advertising or email outreach, or lead generation in general, questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to share them. Otherwise, I'm Jonathan Sellers, and this is Whitney Presley, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Okay.